Hi everyone, my name is Eliana Rutka, and this is my Module 11 Cultural Competence Research Project. Today I'm going to be talking about the role of family in the education of English language learners. Okay, so this is my primary topic question, and it is what impact does the role of family have on English language learners? However, today I'm also going to be taking a look at some other points, such as how a student should find the balance between receiving support from their family and then independent learning, particularly, of course, the learning of their language, and then how teachers can involve student culture and family to positively impact all of their students' learning, in addition to the English language learners. However, of course, my primary focus is on the role of family in the lives of English language learners. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. So, family role in student learning. So, this is first quote is from a study, and I'm actually going to be getting into that study from the journal on the next slide. And it says parental involvement may be different from culture to culture and society to society. Parental involvement may have different types, which may have different influence on academic performance on their children. So this is kind of like a little bit of a disclaimer, and that just says that parental involvement in your student's education definitely looks different, of course, depending on the parent, depending on the student, depending on the school, depending on the culture, depending on, environment, all those different factors. So while we're going to be going over today different ways that parents can get involved in their students' learning, the real important thing is just about the general support that a student has for their child. And then, of course, it can just manifest itself in different ways and look differently depending on the situation. So, there are six general categories of what parental involvement can look like, particularly in the lives of English language learners. The first one is going to be parenting. So, of course, again, like parenting looks totally different depending on the situation, depending on the family. But one of the big ones that I highlighted in pink was setting high expectations. And this is a really great quality to have if possible because English language learners, although there is a bit of a language barrier maybe when they're getting started, English language learners are so incredibly capable and can do so many amazing things. And these high expectations help them to reach that. The parents aren't saying, oh, I don't think you can actually do this, so, just aim low. They're saying, no, aim high. You are capable, you can do this. And then, of course, parenting can manifest itself in different ways, as in supporting your child's health, adolescent needs, mental health, discipline and guidance, things like that. The second one on our list is going to be communicating. Of course, this can involve for English language learners, parents having English conversations with their students at home, but communicating also means that the parents are getting out there communicating with the teachers if possible. And I have this at the bottom of the slide, but I'm going to jump down there now. Even if the parents themselves do not speak English very well, there are still so many ways for the parents to support their child on the child's English learning endeavors. I mean, they can provide their child with opportunities to learn English. So there's still plenty of ways for the parents to help support their child in their English learning endeavors, even if they themselves are not native speakers. But continuing on the list of general categories, another one is volunteering. So parents can go and visit the school. This is great because they're actually in the environment of their child, the learning environment, and they're able to kind of be there with them. And the student is able to kind of make that connection. Oh, my parent is in my learning environment. My family's in my learning environment. And it's just more confirmation for them and support for them. Another one is learning at home if possible. So that could be parents reading books with their English language learners, or there's plenty of bilingual books out there that help you to learn, and the parents can kind of learn alongside them. Decision making, so this is kind of more particular to each family. Parents can make decisions to educate themselves on how they can support their child in accordance with their particular school. Because, as I said at the beginning, of course, these strategies are going to look different depending on the situation, depending on the school. And then finally, collaborating with the community. This is a really big one. It's the parents and the families partnering with the teachers, checking in with them, checking in with the community to see how they can best support their student. So, what are the benefits of all of this? So, this is that study that I mentioned before. This is from a journal entitled Parental Involvement in Academic Achievement, a study on how secondary school students of Lahore, Pakistan, and this demonstrates, of course, the relationship between parental involvement and academic success. So there was a study done. It was pretty broad. So 150 ninth grade boys and girls. So of course, this is looking at the secondary level. And these students were studied from various public and private schools. And then the data was collected via a survey questionnaire. And the results was that there was a significant relationship between the two variables, that is the level of parental involvement in their children's academic activities, and then the level of academic achievement of their children. The present study validated the framework of those six types of parental involvement. So that was those six bullet points I had on the previous slide in their children's academic performance. So this is awesome. This study took a look at these students and it studied them in a very quantifiable way because academic achievement, of course, is a bit quantifiable and it's in the sense that, they can look at their grades, they can look at what they're actually learning in class. So this is a huge benefit to having that parental involvement, and that is academic success and learning the material better, and for English language learners, learning their new language better. However, there are many other benefits to family involvement and the family's cultural involvement in the classroom that goes beyond just higher academic achievement. So the CDC even says research shows that parental engagement in schools is closely linked to better student behavior, higher academic achievement, which we talked about, and then also enhanced social skills. So the big one for English language learners specifically, another big one is positive behaviors and mental health. So because students are feeling less alone in this endeavor of learning this whole new language, which of course is scary, especially if you're in a new place. I mean, I was the opposite. I learned, I'm an English speaker and I learned Spanish in school. And I remember feeling nervous sometimes in Spanish class when especially in my AP class when you're pretty much the whole class is spoken in Spanish, and if I didn't know how to say something. So having that support, being in that safer environment, your parents might be there if they're volunteering. The student knows that their parent is supporting them from home. That is really beneficial to encouraging those positive behaviors in the student and boosting their mental health. And then along with that, kind of stemming from the positive mental health comes those strong social skills. The students can feel more confident, less anxious when communicating with others, just doing their best to try to speak to the other students in English, things like that. And then finally, stronger cultural identity. So students are not ashamed of their native language or culture. And that's the thing. When you're learning a new language, you don't have to repress who you are. You don't have to repress your native language. You're instead just learning something new. So when the parents come at it with that attitude and they partner with the teachers and they're like, no, this is a good thing that you're learning a new language. It's a beautiful thing. But you can still stay true to who you are, and that in turn allows the students to indeed stay true to who they are and have that strong cultural identity. For example, still knowing who they are and knowing their ethnicity or their native language, but still being able to be in this new environment and learn this new language. So another thing that I wanted to kind of dive into with this topic was how do you balance that? How do you independently learn a new language while maintaining that family support? Because of course, your parents can help you out, but it still demands a response from the student. So I said that a balance must be found between parental support and then the student motivation. And all the studies, are showing, that the parental involvement is very important to the student's success. However, the parents aren't the ones doing the homework, and a lot of times they're not the ones learning the language. So it's finding that basically building that teamwork between the parents, between the teachers, and then between the students. And the student does, of course, have to put forward that effort to engage in their learning and work hard to understand the material, which involves learning the language for the English language learners. But this all made me think of something that my own seventh grade math teacher taught us. And this, of course, was not in the context of English language learners, but I do think it applies here. And that was one third, one third, one third. And for all students, it is that partnership. So it's one third partly on the teachers, it's one third partly on the parents, and it's one third partly on the students. And of course, you can argue, however that the math actually works out, but basically, it is some kind of partnership between those three parties in order to ensure the student's success. So finding that balance is very important. Of course, the parents can support and the teachers, they can support the student and give them the resources and materials they need, but it is up to the student to put forward that effort and use those materials that they give them. So, what can teachers do? What can teachers do to involve culture and family in the classroom and support their English language learners? So, another study from 2015, this is from the journal called Converging Recommendations for Culturally Responsive Literacy Practices, Students with Learning Disabilities, English Language Learners, and Socioculturally Diverse Learners. So, this journal explores a little bit of everything, but it does take a closer look at to what the educators themselves can do to support their English language learners. So, findings do highlight what we have systematically found to be converging recommended instructional practices promoting equitable and culturally responsive literacy instruction for all students. And then for the most effective and efficient education, the quote is teachers will need to adopt a critical and culturally responsive stance, along with understanding how to modify these instructional recommendations to be effective across various student populations. So basically, yes, teachers should be involving some culture and family into the classroom to optimize the amount of support that their students are getting. So practically though, what does that look like? That's great and all, but what can the teachers do? What can we do as future educators? So, of course, the first one is build a partnership with the family. What does this look like though? So, again, that's kind of abstract, so I'm going to dive into it. So, when you speak with your family, it says share your insights about the student's strengths and interests. So, you as the teacher, you can tell the parents what a wonderful student, their child is and or where the student needs to grow. So, you as a teacher speaking your mind, being in that communication, one of those first parental strategies from that very first slide, being in communication with the family is going to be invaluable. And it's going to, the parents will be, theoretically would be very grateful because it will help them to support their child at home with that knowledge of what kind of support they need from class. But then as educators, you can speak, but you should also listen. And allow the family to share information that they know about the child's strengths and weaknesses or areas of growth from home. And then you can use that knowledge and better understand what kind of things they need, the help they need. And then, of course, sometimes if parents aren't English speaking, that can be a little bit challenging, but just finding any way to build that connection with the family is going to be valuable. And then another one is be sure to communicate with the family about any services that the student is eligible to receive if necessary. So, support, just any support services that your school provides for English language learners, be very communicative about those. Of course, building the rapport with the family, you as a teacher can encourage the family to go after those six strategies from that earlier slide. And you can encourage them, like, hey, we have this volunteer event coming up. Feel free to come, help out, just be there. So you as the teacher can kind of seek out those, especially if you do have an English language learner in your class and you want to be able to support them and be there for them. And just building that rapport is going to be awesome. And then part of the responsibility also does fall on the educator to craft a comfortable environment for the students. So that involves, I said, zero tolerance bullying policies. So building, just a community of support in your classroom, being welcoming to all, and anything, I think, and it's been very helpful in the past, anything that, any behaviors from another student, anything that disrespects the inherent dignity of another person needs to be cut, and, zero tolerance for that. And then a way, though, that teachers can kind of implement that is by finding ways to celebrate culture in the classroom. I know my own high school, we did different celebrations for Hispanic Heritage Month or Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Black History Month, things like that. So celebrating our cultural identity is very important, and teachers can definitely implement that in their classrooms. So, of course, we've been talking this whole time about relevance to the field of education, but just a couple important points. So, supporting our English language learners is truly imperative, and this is in order to provide an equal and equitable learning environment that is beneficial to all the English language learners and the other, currently English speaking students in the classrooms. This is so important to our field of education because we are trying to build an environment and a community where all can learn. That is our job as educators. English language learners, another important thing to remember, they're so extremely, extremely capable. And then the partnership, of course, between teachers, parents, and students can allow them to succeed and give them that little boost of support if they so need it. And then family involvement and cultural involvement, bringing the families into your classroom, if possible, if that's something your school allows, is a beautiful way to engage cultural identity in the classroom and break down that language barrier because the students are actively surrounded with family and culture, and all families and cultures are different and they're beautiful. So it's building that environment of support, which is beautiful in the field of education. And then just a couple other closing statements and arguments. So I've been saying it this whole time, but parental involvement in a student's education is extremely beneficial to an English language learner's success, particularly in supporting them academically, emotionally, socially, and also culturally. But of course, it's that partnership that I've also been talking about this whole time between parents and educators and the students. And then family involvement, that's crucial. Keeping that student sense of self, their cultural identity, especially if they're in a new place, and welcoming the differences of all. And here is my references slide. Thank you so much for listening.